We're back. Real Matrix. We've been listening to clips from Dr. David Martin. If I trust everything he's saying, but let's say if you don't, just listen to what he has to say. He sounds like he's pretty up on the subjects. He's bringing testimonial in regards to information that probably most people don't know, and if you don't believe that and you would rather believe Big Pharma, then hey, just take it for entertainment. I want to show before we get back to we'll go back to David during that one speech. There's another speech he made in at the COVID Summit 5 in February 2024, just over a year ago, in regards to kind of how we got here in regards to the legislative area of what made it available for the big pharma and the powers that be to be able to push this agenda, which is really anti-health, anti-American, anti-safety for us humans. So he's going to go over some of those. And like I said in the shows before, this has been going on for well before our lifetime. Actually, well over 100 years it's been going on. And David points out a couple of those things. So we'll get started on that right away. The first clip is going to be in regards to, what's led us down this path.
Presentation. If you need to have my Peter Daszak, quote from 2015, look at all the other content. Today, it's going to be about the legislative erasure of human and civil rights. And we have to start in 1904 with Oliver Wendell Holmes, who was at the time a justice in the Supreme Court, and famously in 1905 was associated with the most horrific piece of jurisprudence in this country, certainly in the history of the United States. And that was the Jacobson case. Because Jacobson is actually the root of this tree, the root of the tree that bore the fruit of COVID. Because Jacobson was the first time that the Supreme Court ruled that individual liberties had to be sacrificed for what was called the public health common good. And I want to submit to you today, we're at CPAC, and we should have a room full of politicians, and unfortunately, they're not here. But they need to hear this message. Until we have legislative reform that actually repeals Jacobson, we will have more of these moments. But it's not just Jacobson we have to go after, because it's not just the ruling that was the Supreme Court case in Massachusetts. The ruling that actually put in place this idea that mandatory injections are part of a public health policy was actually solidified by, are you ready for this? The Rockefeller Foundation and the Wellcome Trust. And yes, I'm naming names. And by the way, if you think I'm just throwing those names out willy-nilly, I'm not. They are who is in fact running the World Health Organization's current antitrust and corruption campaign, which is about to go to a vote for the treaty. This is about an illegal racketeering conglomerate who wants to actually have a uniform, liability-free permit to kill humanity at will. And it is the Rockefeller Foundation and it is the Wellcome Trust who I'm calling out directly. Now, a lot of you like to pick on the Gates Foundation, and I do too. But let's go to the pros. These are the people who, are you ready for this? And if we look at this graph, I mean, start with the Helsinki Accords. Right, where you sit back and say, well, hold on a second. Once upon a time, didn't we say we weren't going to do human experimentation without informed consent? Didn't we agree that that was something that we thought was probably a good idea?
So, I mean, how many people have heard of the Jacobson case? I never even thought, I have no idea. But what was that, back in the early 1900s, where they said, if it's for what we, government, or whoever, we who? President, government, local who are they? If they think it's good for us, we as citizens, humans, that we have to get it. We lose our right to freedom. That's exactly what they were trying to push here during COVID 5 years ago. If you thought, hey, you really want to pass on the experimental vaccine that you don't know what's in it, you don't know the long-term effects, if you passed on it and you worked at a company that worked with the government, you could lose your job. Or you worked for a company that was insane maniacs that said, you need to get a shot or we will fire you. Because that happened a lot around the place. I mean, that's not the country I thought America was. Thought you had the freedom to do. And again, in all the history of our health, if you're sick, you should quarantine yourself. What we did and what this case did is provide the opposite. If you're healthy, you need to quarantine yourselves to make sure you don't contact someone who's sick. Upside down world. Upside down world. So, you as an American, if you want your freedoms, I mean, again, if you feel a vaccine shot would help you, more power to you. Go for it. I'm sure the big pharma corporations are not going to stop making vaccines. They're making too much money. That's never going to go away. Next clip, actually, you're going to talk about and be aware of this. In the verbiage of our country, it says, if you're a prisoner, an orphan, or in our military, you have no choice. You have to abide by these rules of you're able to get these shots without your consent. Here, let's hear this right now.
Yeah. Well, here's a tiny little problem. The tiny little problem is we actually said that we were going to actually, in 1948, prohibit experimentation on humans at all costs. But at exactly the same time, 45 U.S. Code Section 46-C created an exemption. And the exemption said that if you were a prisoner, if you were an orphan, if you were in the military service or in any part of the federal service, you actually did not have to receive informed consent. Isn't it fascinating that on the heels of Nuremberg, we decided to take the public who serve our country and say they can be exterminated for the benefit of the Rockefeller Foundation and the Wellcome Trust, and they wrote into the law an absolute exemption from immunity or from any prosecution, total immunity from any prosecution for any crime ever, including murder. You think we have a problem in COVID? We have a problem because we decided that we would make an exemption at the exact same time we said the Nuremberg Convention actually had merit. We made an exception that said the people who serve our country can be slaughtered. That's not an America that's the land of the free and the home of the brave. That's genocidal, homicidal maniacs. That's what that is.
You heard it, and it's not like they would say, hey, you have to get this or else. Although they did do that. You have to get this or else you'll lose your job back 5 years ago. But back in 1948, an orphan, these doctors say, well, here, little Timmy or little Janie, this is good for you. You need some medicine. There's no informed consent. Informed consent means you are told what the potential drawbacks are, and you have a choice whether to do it or not. Military, no choice, no informed consent. You know, in the military, hey, get in line. Lunch is at this hour. Get there. Reveille's this time, and oh, hey, we got the shot you got to take. No chance to say no to it. I mean, as an American, I would think you should be angry about that. I should think you would be angry about that. I love our military. I love the people that will go fight for us and fight for our freedom. Those people are salt of the earth. love the military. And how can you not say they need to be protected a little bit better? I mean, what are we doing in this country? We'll continue on with Dr. David Martin. He's going to talk about how drug companies got a pass in regards to their drugs maybe causing problems. Next clip.
When you actually move forward to the 1962 Kefauver-Harris Amendment, the Drug Efficacy Amendment, we actually gave drug companies a pass on killing people in clinical trials. Most of us don't even know about that amendment. When the government unilaterally decided in its own expediency to exempt people from the need for informed consent, that act went into place so that we could exempt ourselves from the murder of over 20,000 orphans who were subject to clinical trials. Isn't that cool? We murdered orphans. Sound familiar? Anybody? Does it sound familiar? So what we're doing right now.
I mean, I was saying you should be angry about the military. You should be angry about orphans. You should be angry about all of it. This is information. It's written in there. You could probably look it up. He has the receipts. I love that about Dr. David Martin. He has the receipts. This is public information. It's in that document. And then there's a couple more. He's going to go on and on about a couple more. It's tragic. Next clip.
The National Research Act of 1974. People, these are important pieces of legislation we have to get repealed. The National Research Act of 1974, after the Belmont Report, very clearly stated that it was in the national interest of public health to actually exempt organizations from having any liability for accidental deaths and accidental adverse events from clinical trials. Does that sound like something we should probably actually go back and re-examine if we had anybody on the legislative side of this particular organization or any other organization that actually cared about humanity? Shouldn't we be having this conversation? Or am I the only one that thinks we should do something? And how about the absolute waiver of informed consent in the 21st Century CARES Act signed in 2016? An absolute waiver of informed consent. This from the country that said that we were going to investigate the crimes of Nazi Germany. Who did that? The Rockefeller Foundation and the Wellcome Trust. That's who did it. And let's stop hiding behind the fact that the reason why this event is not on the main stage is because those donors who actually include donors to this organization are unwilling to have this conversation. And I might not get invited back to a place like this, but I don't care. Because the fact of the matter is, we have to have people who have the courage to call out genocidal crimes when they're happening and while they're happening. And they are happening here at the Gaylord right now.
And I'm not saying people who are listening to this or hear this should just jump out of their chair and change their life and become a crusader for all of these facts or all of these injustices that have been going on. But I am saying, when you hear this, I hope you have an open mind enough to say, hey, there's some funny business going on here. There's some things that we're doing in regards to our health, our healthcare, our health systems, that maybe aren't in the best interests of everybody. Now, I talked to someone I really thought of highly a couple moments before the show, and talking about COVID, and said, hey, he's got the shots, he got the boosters, he's feeling great. Okay, not everyone had not everyone had serious side effects from these vaccinations, but some did. And the amount of deaths that were occurred from it are substantial. Now, if you were one of the lucky ones that had no side effects, more power to you. But what about the people that did? You can go to openvaers.com, VAERS. Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS, or VAERS.HHS. It's the government site, but it's documented, purely documented, that well over, I think right now the number might be 50,000 people who have died directly and is attributed to a COVID shot, a COVID vaccine. 50,000 people. And that doesn't include the millions and millions that were affected negatively with their health in regards to the Guillain-Barré disease that gives you paralysis in your face. And there's so many other things so many other side effects, negative side effects that have occurred and are documented in our government's website. And but people go, hey, didn't happen to me, so I don't care. I'm hoping that people listen to this and look into it and say, if you have any kind of sense of humanity, a lot of people have been harmed and hurt by this. And my major issue with doing this is I don't want it to happen again. It's already happened. I get it. We were stupid. We were sheep. We followed along. I don't want it to happen again. I don't want it to happen again to my kids, my family, my friends. It won't happen to me. I'm not getting it. I don't care what. No chance. If you want to get it, that's great. I have no problem with it still being legal for people to get if that's what turns you on. But we should have our choice and our freedoms to make that choice. Next clip in regards to how many patents and how many pathogens these illnesses that they're working on and that they're trying to patent at risk for us. Next clip.
I do want to remind people, and I really do want to remind people, that this criminal conspiracy is actually not a theory. We have, right now, in the United States, an ongoing and active bioweapons program where we have now 68 pathogens under development and in various phases of distribution for the next pandemic. People talk about disease X. I want you to put a scientific notation next to X. It's X to the 68th power. It's not disease X. It's diseases X. We don't know how many genetic modifications have been made, but I do know that there are over 9,000 patents already filed on the genetic modification of 68 pathogens that the Department of Defense in the United States is currently having bioweapons investigations on right now. So X to the 68th power, people.
So you heard him. It's not Pfizer or your local doctor. It's a Department of Defense that has these patents. As he said earlier in the show, doesn't sound like health. Doesn't sound like our health is being trying to be protected. It sounds like a bioweapon. And the criminal behind all of it was Anthony Fauci, who I don't even like saying his name. Next clip, Dr. Martin talks about how the letter from Fauci stating it's gain of function research, which he categorically denied that they ever did or he would ever be considered with. He has a letter. Next clip.
This is the letter that every investigation in Congress still can't find. Rand Paul still cannot find this when he's got Anthony Fauci across the table from him. This is the letter sent from Anthony Fauci's NIAID in October of 2014. This is the letter that specifically went to UNC Chapel Hill, specifically talking about the Wuhan Institute of Virology Virus 1 program. Anybody guessing where that happened? 2014, Wuhan Institute of Virology Virus program. That's the letter that said not only is the University of North Carolina authorized to continue its gain-of-function research, and by the way, they use the term gain-of-function research, but it goes one step further, the middle line that I have highlighted. changed the protocol to say it was authorized to go in vivo. That means put it in living systems. That was not part of the original grant. So they didn't just do gain-of-function research, they put it into living systems in 2014, which gave rise to the 2016 publication in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science that said, and I quote, "The Wuhan Institute of Virology Virus 1 is poised for human."
He's got receipts. He's got receipts. You can look them up. Next clip in regards to how it's all connected to Rockefellers.
Remember that this started in 1913 officially. By 1924 and 1925, it was Hitler that highlighted how much he appreciated the Carnegie, Rockefeller, eugenics research that the United States government was paying for. Did you hear what I just said? In the 1920s, Hitler celebrated the U.S. eugenics.
Eugenics, we talked about it. Rockefellers are part of that. Bill Gates, eugenics. Eugenics is the quest for depopulating. They think there's too many of us on the planet. I've said it before in the other shows. It's not a secret. There are people that think there's too many of us here, and they want us gone, and they want billions of us gone. How's the best way to do that? How about a manufactured illness that can kill people who have health issues like COVID? Or how about a vaccine that causes terrible side effects like myocarditis, causes heart attacks, or turbo cancers? That's a way to get there. Or the vaccines that cause infertility and can't have more kids. That's a way to get there too. I'm not saying that's happening. You think about, is that possible? Next clip in regards to these forced vaccinations.
Nuremberg was gutted. Read this. "No one shall be subject without his free consent either to medical or scientific experimentation or to physical mutilation, except in his own interest or in the case of emergency." Could you help me understand? What is your own interest when it's not your interest? Do you read that? Somebody's going to just decide what's in your interest. Isn't that great? And it's not going to be you. And that, by the way, is actually the letter that supported what became that 1964 Act. And how about this one? In the 21st Century CARES Act, when we've decided that in the interest of public health, informed consent isn't important if the government determines that it's not important. Signed into law in 2016. This is not the fox guarding the hen house. This is actually the axe murdering fox in the hen house actually murdering the chickens. And we let the fox in the hen house to murder the chickens. This is not an allegation. This is an accusation. And until we're serious about legislative reform, we're going to.
So whether you're a Democrat now with a Republican president or Congress and think they shouldn't be telling you what to do, or years ago when Biden was in and you're a Republican and Democrats in and telling you what to do, I would think everyone should be on board with the fact that our government shouldn't be telling us what to do in regards to our bodies. Okay? That's just pure and simple. Let's do one last clip here from this speech in regards to other health issues that have gone on, like in regards to anthrax, that we've been on the wrong side of in regards to vaccines.
Know that, but I had the dubious distinction in 2001 to point out that the Bayer purchase of 300 million doses of ciprofloxacin in May of 2001. And those of you good with math will realize May came before September that year. Anybody have a problem with that? The 300 million doses of ciprofloxacin, the drug that's used to treat anthrax poisoning, because obviously we all remember that great summer of 2001 when we were all tanning hides, because that's how you catch anthrax. You Remember the great buffalo hunt of 2001 when all of America went out and shot a buffalo and learned how to tan a hide that year? Remember that one? We bought 300 million doses of ciprofloxacin in May before the September anthrax attacks. We did that because we needed to pass the PrEP Act. The PrEP Act extended immunity shields for vaccine manufacturers to adult injections as long as they were called medical countermeasures. And this was important because we were killing our servicemen and women with the anthrax injections, and we called it Gulf War Syndrome. Yes, I said it, and I know I'm not supposed to because I'm at CPAC, but I don't care. I just said it. But the fact of the matter is we were killing people, and we needed to get exemption from immunity of prosecution. We needed to make sure that we actually got that to the adults, not just to the kids. And so we got that immunity passed in 2005 with the PrEP Act. And yes, that was George Bush that signed that one into law and advocated for it. So let's get really clear on who did it. And we had COVID so that we could get to the Global Health Treaty. There was no, this whole pandemic nonsense, the compulsory injections, all these other things had nothing to do with any infectious disease. It had everything to do with the objective that is coming up this spring. If we, the people, want liberty, we have to go back and water the tree of liberty. And we need to put an axe.
So I was unaware in 2001, I guess we were fearful of anthrax at that time, and all of a sudden, the big pharma makes, again, billions of dollars coming up with this vaccine that happened well before they said they needed it. I mean, so is it a possibility that maybe the big pharma was behind the push of the scare, the fear porn of anthrax? I mean, I don't know. You figure it out for yourself. But it seems like there's a lot of instances where Big Pharma has jumped the gun in regards to making vaccines or pushing vaccines before the problem even becomes a problem. What they are clairvoyant. I tell you what, forget about investing money on your own. Go ask Big Pharma who to invest money with, because they seem to be clairvoyant over everything. I want to get back to a couple of clips from David Martin's first speech. Talks about how these things were premeditated. This is not an accident. Like I was just saying, they seem to be clairvoyant. They know what's going on. Back to David Martin.
If you have not done so, please make sure that you make reference in every investigation to the premeditation nature of this, because it was in September of 2019 that the world was informed that we were going to have an accidental or intentional release of a respiratory pathogen so that by September 2020, there would be a worldwide acceptance of a universal vaccine template. That's their words, right in front of you on the screen. The intent was to get the world to accept a universal vaccine template, and the intent was to use coronavirus to get there.
Sure sounds premeditated to me. Sure sounds premeditated. And matter of fact, in the next, I mean, this is all documents from Big Pharma and all these companies designing and producing these vaccines. And he's going to quote from some kind of paper in regards to where they talk about this is for profit. And if we do it right, the money will come out of the woodwork. We'll be making money big because they will follow this path that we're trying to focus on in regards to vaccines. I basically call it plandemic for profit. Listen to Dr. David Martin.
Until an infectious disease crisis is very real, present, and at the emergency threshold, it is often largely ignored. To sustain the funding base beyond the crisis, he said, we need to increase the public understanding for the need for medical countermeasures such as a pan-influenza or pan-coronavirus vaccine. A key driver is the media, and the economics will follow the hype. We need to use that hype to our advantage to get to the real issues. Investors will respond if they see profit at the end of the process. Sounds like public health? Sounds like the best of humanity? No, ladies and gentlemen, this was premeditated domestic terrorism stated at the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2015, published in front of them. This is an act of biological and chemical warfare perpetrated on the human race, and it was admitted to in writing that this was a financial heist and a financial fraud. Investors will follow if they see profit at the end of the process.
He's got the receipts. Again, if these were lies, I'm sure he would be drug into court in regards to this. So it brings us to a point of there's two options. Either Big Pharma, who is making trillions on these vaccines, that is their business model. Either they're lying, and they have a lot to lose if this truth was out, or Dr. David Martin's lying. And if he was lying, I think he would be drug over the carpet. And what's his financial gain for it? Again, he was a researcher. He dealt with a lot of large corporations, World Bank. He was an advisor to all these people, and he did it on CNBC, and he was let go. He was let go from them when he started talking about this. He gave up his career, financial gain, to bring out these truths. So again, who am I going to, who should I believe? I'm not that smart. I don't know. But I'm leaning toward someone who has brought this information out, brought these truths out, and who has been, crucified and lost his job, lost financial gain, instead of a large multi-conglomerate corporation that is making more money than I think any other organization or group of companies in the world. I'm leaning toward David Martin. You make your own decision. And if you don't believe David Martin, his information is everywhere on the internet. Follow him, look at him, look at more of the things he says. If you follow Dr. David Martin, you're going to be getting truths in my eyes. Or if you don't think so, please listen to him, point that out. Educate me. I need that education. So we're going to do one last clip before we get out of here, and he talks about recommendations and what's going on, and so let's hear David finish it up.
Let me conclude by making 5 very brief recommendations. The last slide. Nature was hijacked. This whole story started in 1965 when we decided to hijack a natural model and decide to start manipulating it. Science was hijacked when the only questions that could be asked were questions authorized under the patent protection of the CDC, the FDA, the NIH, and their equivalent organizations around the world. We didn't have independent science. We had hijacked science. And unfortunately, there was no moral oversight in violation of all of the codes that we stand for. There was no independent, financially disinterested, independent review board ever impaneled around coronavirus, not once. Not once. Not since 1965. We do not have a single independent IRB ever impaneled around coronavirus. So morality was suspended for medical countermeasures. And ultimately, humanity was lost because we decided to allow it to happen. Our job today is to say, no more gain-of-function research, period. No more weaponization of nature, period. And most importantly, no more corporate patronage of science for their own self-interest unless they assume 100% product liability for every injury and every death that they maintain.
I can't argue with anything he has to say there. Can't argue at all. There's so much more information out there. We are going to be delving into the health issues of our country in regards to these vaccines and our regular health. And then I'll just put it out there. You make your own decision. And until then, I'll be stuck here in the real matrix. We'll see you next time. Want to make your love life sizzle like a Phoenix summer? Summit Male Medical guarantees to help you with ED or premature issues, or we won't charge you. We've helped tens of thousands of patients here in the Valley since 2008. Please compare our most experienced medical staff and low-price treatments to anybody. If you've talked to the rest, it's time to come to the best. Put the sizzle back in your love life. 480-398-1000 or go to summitmalemedical.com. Summit Medical, love for life.
Wow.